Welcome to Cartomancy Mesquite. Today we're doing readings on Nancy Jean's Oracle Garden. While we're sitting here waiting for people to pile in, we'll be doing a little segment on La Madama. So when you come with your questions, put them in all caps, and we'll go from there after the La Madama.
There you go.
Go for it, Diana.
Hi, everybody. Can you put that picture up?
Oh, I couldn't do it.
You couldn't?
No.
Okay, that's all right. I have it on my phone rather than to
okay.
do all of that. La Madama, y'all might recognize as Aunt Jemima. And, you know, she's not insulted to be on a pancake box because she's the cook in the kitchen. She is a spirit that goes way back to the Haitian and to Puerto Rico, and of course is well celebrated in New Orleans and down in the South, all through the South, all through the Bayou, all through probably Florida as well, especially in the Everglade area where you still find a lot of backwoods things.
Yeah.
So backwoods practices, voodoo. However, I don't put her in the voodoo category. I put her more in the Santos category.
Yeah.
So this is my La Madama. And way back, even before Aunt Jemima came out, those little statues were everywhere because that is how she's represented. You can go into antique shops and you can find them like this size for $10, $12, cast iron. If you see one, grab it. The La Madama cookie jars, and even if you find an old Mrs. Butterworth bottle, grab it. If you find an Aunt Jemima box, especially from the early days, grab it. While she still had this persona, because this is the way she dressed. Typically seen in red and white with the bandana on her head. So to honor her, she built an altar, and the things that she likes on her altar are scarves tied together, or I've used antique handkerchiefs. You can dress her up. She loves jewelry. She loves tobacco. Give her any kind of tobacco, but she really likes cigars. Whiskey. She likes good old whiskey.
Oh, all right.
Right? So I have a whiskey jug on there. She loves seashells because her sisters and she are all of the water. They all go to the water to do some of their own spell work and magic.
Okay.
So she is also known by many different names. And some of those names begin with an Elzila. Elzila indicates that she's a sprite. But she herself has been called La Madama Francesita. And that comes in traditional Caribbean dress. And then we have La Madama Negrita. And she is African and comes in those dolls. With a lot of beadwork, you'll see them as well, but in traditional African type dress. So what is extra special about her to me is that she was made in Poland. And I'm of Polish descent. And I come from a long line of soothsayers who weren't afraid to admit it in spite of being Catholic. So she sits in a basket with her sisters and Uncle Ben, another one who's misunderstood. He's the god of harvest and the god of hard work. And let me bring up this photo and I'll show you what my altar for her is like. Sometimes it spreads out, but right now she's the guardian at my door.
Oh, nice.
The room that we're in is the room I call the lodge. Like everything that's back on this wall is celebrated for somebody or something. From the dream catcher to the old postcard of a soothsayer, fortune teller. I've painted a picture of Merlin. the God's Eye. Then I have an eagle feather up there, and it's a real one. I came by it naturally from a Native American who gave it to me, and raccoon tails, etc. So anyway, back to getting this photograph up so you can have a gander at the kind of things to put on her altar.
Mm-hmm.
So over here, you can see it's kind of hard. Sorry, folks. This is the handkerchiefs, antique handkerchiefs that I have tied together.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a piece of artwork. It's a big old rose that I've done in an old-fashioned way called papyrotomia.
Uh-huh.
And that's what they called it in the colonial days, and probably prior to that as well. She they saved every scrap of paper because it wasn't the easiest thing to come by. So with those scraps of paper, they would just trim them out and glue them to a bigger piece of paper and create art with it. And then my turtle rattle is right there. She has a mirror with an owl on it that is a closed compact for scrying. She likes regular playing cards. That's how she tells you cardomancy. Got it. And then let's see what else we got going here. Oh, I've got 2 dead frogs. One came with me from Virginia. The other one I found here and back in Michigan. She loves snakeskin. And in this box, I have 2 complete snakes. Here's her jug of whiskey, and this whiskey is old. It was 50 years old when it was put in that bottle, and that bottle is more than 50 years old. We keep threatening to crack it open. This year might be the year, but I don't want to disappoint her. I'd have to drink, right? And then this is her fancy glass, right? This is an amber colored glass. That's another antique piece.
Yeah.
In here, I have frankincense and myrrh. This old cookie jar is filled with frankincense and myrrh. One of the fragrances she really likes, plus copal. So each one of these little tins in here have little gifts, some I Ching coins, a giant piece of copal, and some dead flowers, and dandelion buds that were dried separate, so they're still yellow. And that's for her making salves, which I make salves. And I've forgotten what else is in there. Probably a rock and a seashell. And then what else? Oh, I grow sweetgrass. Okay, I don't need any more notifications. So this is the traditional negrita. All right, she's the traditional African doll. She was brought to me from Africa. There's a book for them to write recipes in. This sock doll was made for me by one of my little 4-year-old students for embalm. And that was back in 1990. And they were from Bolivia. That's a Bolivian practice, is to honor Bridget. Wow. So that's Bridget's doll that's supposed to be standing at the your door frame. But I bring her up here because she's gotten old and I just love looking at her, and I've kept in touch with the family. She has since become a doctor. Imagine that.
Wow.
And here is the character for Uncle Ben. This is his wife, again, Lama Dama, with a set of twins. And where'd he go? He's in here somewhere. Yeah, it looks like he fell over in it. When I pulled her out, he fell down. But he's in there. And that's another one, Uncle Ben. Everybody, no, he's the god of, here he is. He's the god of
I see him.
Harvest and hard work, right? And so this is one of the ways to honor her. In here, I have sticks and ebony and ivory.
Mm-hmm.
It's two old piano keys
Mm-hmm.
and a piece of ivory. My brother builds guitars, makes them from scratch, and he uses old piano wood whenever he can. So whenever he sees them on the side of the road,
Mm-hmm.
does what he can to get them to his house so he can take them apart. And that's because wood,
Mm-hmm.
like every muscle, like every pore, like every cell, has a memory.
Yeah.
And old pianos have 100 years or more of memory in their wood for the resonance. So depending on what he's building, he loves to use them for the guitar neck.
Wow.
For electric guitars.
Yeah.
So
that's really good.
There you go. Here's La Madama Francesita.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she loves jewelry. They love seashells. So I've taken this old earring and dressed her up in it. La Madama's got one on also, and it says, "Sister, my Uncle Zip and my grandmother were very close to each other out of 16 kids. And they were so close together. And they both were bowlers. And back in the 30s and 20s, you could get a copper wire. And he was winning things. And so he's got Sister or Martha or something or another put on all that jewelry that he would bring home. So that's La Madama gets that. And then this, to me, represents Pixie. If y'all don't know who Pixie is, Pamela Coleman Smith, the goddess of tarot. The Rider Waite that we love and use most of all is the deck she designed. She was born in England, but her mother died. And her father didn't know, he was an actor as well. And so off he went. So she had a nanny. And then they moved her down to the Caribbean. And in the Caribbean, she learned all of the tales, all of the soothsayer, and dressed in traditional Caribbean clothes. And sat with a rag on her head all the time, a bundle.
Wow.
And then would do mediumship and tell stories to adults and ghost stories and sit on the floor entertaining in her salon, the living room of her house. So she sits on the work table where we do our readings. She is my muse because I'm an artist as well. And I like to write. And she was an Aquarius, in case anybody's interested.
Well, we have a little bit of a problem here today. For some reason, I'm not getting the chat.
Uh-oh.
So we might as well make this the doll show.
You're welcome. Let me see what if I can get the chat on my phone.
Okay.
Through.
Yeah.
There we are. Get the chat on my phone. This action is turned off for what? For content made for kids.
There goes my StreamYard again.
Now, I have been getting that a couple of times. I even got it on Gerald's channel one day.
Wow. So this is a repeated thing.
Yeah, who's doing that? Somebody is banning it, right?
Yep. Oh, well, let's do our show then on your dolls, and we'll do readings next week when I figure out how to fix this.
Okay. Well, there you go. Any other spirits we want to talk about while we're doing this?
Well, I just went into a study of female deities.
Okay.
So any dolls you have that represent female deities would be of great interest to me.
Okay. I will gladly pull them up. In this room, I have, Mary Magdalene. I use, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Katsinas that represent guardian angels and
Mhm.
archangels in particular: Metatron, Sandalphon, Zadkiel, Ratziel, Raguel. Let's see who else I got over there. Jophiel and Haniel. I use them simultaneously.
Mhm.
Zadkiel, I said that already. Uriel, Michael, Gabriel's above me as an angel. Elomnia, and then my chief,
Mhm.
Tonquish. He's also one of the Kutsinas. And then I have cows. I've made a doll for Bridget. If you don't mind my getting up for a second,
Oh
I'll go
no,
get
go for it.
Okay, I'll be right back. Let's see. What else?
Yes, we're going to go on with Diana's dolls, and we'll be discussing female deities at the same time.
So I brought in those that I would consider divine masculine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for two reasons. One, this whole setup is a Katsina doll. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, they represent, and we got Hayoka here, right?
Oh wow, yeah.
Right? And they're eating watermelon. And as tricksters,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't see them as tricksters. What I see them as is Balthasar, Melchior, Kispar, and Nostradamus.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So that's who they represent for me when I'm channeling.
Mm-hmm.
I made a pipe cleaner doll for Bride. That's Bridget.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow,
So,
look at that.
yeah. I wrapped pipe cleaners with thread.
Uh-huh.
Oops. And then she rides in a sled, a horse-drawn
Mm-hmm.
sled. And then I channel her, of course. And
Mm-hmm.
I tend Bridget's flame. Most times of the year, I have 2 candles burning on the front porch for her.
Mm-hmm.
It's been raining, so I let them go out because the water just gets into the lanterns that I have,
Mm-hmm.
because it blows in and it puts the flames out, and then they just drown the wick and
Yeah.
etc. This is one I use for Mary the Magdalene, because in spite of what everybody said, Yeshua loved her.
Mm-hmm.
They had babies and they went off to France. But let's see, according to Josephus, Joseph of Arimathea,
Mm-hmm.
who got Yeshua the tomb and the sepulcher,
Mm-hmm.
was able to get her in the Six of Swords boat. That's who the Six of Swords represents, is Mary the Magdalene, going off to France. But he was a merchant. He was very wealthy. He had the trade routes and he was a navigator. So he too was a wise man.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I've always been trying to figure out was Joseph of Arimathea, actually Saint Joseph,
Mm-hmm.
because that would put us in another position where him taking care of her made him her father, uncle figure
Mm-hmm.
after Yeshua's demise.
Mm-hmm.
Or the stage of the whole thing to get them both out of the Middle East and Nazareth and get them off to where they needed to be safe. And Spain would have been on the route.
Yeah.
So she's become Mary Magdalene.
Very nice.
And then this one represents my chief. He encompasses both the divine masculine and the divine feminine.
Uh-huh.
When I first was able to identify my chief by name, was about 2006, but he's been with me since 2000, since I was born, 1949. But when I was about 4 years old is when I began to recognize that I had a Native American chief. There was this Indian around me all the time, and I would talk to him. What I like about him is his helmet comes off. That's what I love about this one most of all. I love them all, don't get me wrong.
I like that.
Now, when I met him, what I was doing was clearing my brother's home. He is on sacred land, but up until this point, nobody realized that.
Yeah.
And he gets all of this paranormal activity. So this is actually how I found out what his name is.
Oh, okay.
So I began to see this whole thing play out, and I had no idea at all about this whole thing. This whole thing was a fight that had begun between settlers, pioneer-like settlers. This is like 56, something like that. So it's already being developed. Detroit is already being developed. It's an area near the River Rouge, and the River Rouge was a trade route for the Potawatomi, Ojibwa, and Saginaw, and the Three Fires Confederacy.
Yeah.
And so as I was channeling and getting deeper and deeper into the whole event, I heard the gunshots. I saw what happened. I saw this young brave running through a field, and I saw him talking to white people, and they hit him with the butt of the rifle and then smacked him. And others came and got him and picked him up and took him to the shaman's hut. In the shaman's hut, they also had the body of his son.
Oh my goodness.
I was not the shaman, but I was standing where the shaman was standing, and I was talking to him, and the tears were streaming down his face, especially when he looked over and saw his dead son on the other side. And that brings me to the divine feminine, because he was only protecting what was always theirs. The white people wanted to settle there because of the River Rouge. And the River Rouge is very important, especially back in the early days of Ford, making bigger factories once we're beyond the Model A.
Those were the highways.
Exactly. Right? And that's that hydropower. They used that whole river route to get iron ore back and forth to then, ship parts up to Saginaw or wherever.
Yeah.
The Upper Peninsula is a big ore mining area for iron pellets. Anyway, I digress. So I saw that whole thing play out, and that's when I said to my brother, "You're on holy land. The shaman's hut was right here. This is how it was. This is where it was located. Partially on the other side of the fence in your neighbor's yard." My brother lives in an older home. It was thrown up after World War II.
Yeah.
But one of those type of small homes. But he's on what was originally great big huge farm area. And so when I saw this play out, he said, "Well, all of that happened." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, 3 miles down the road in Edward Hines Park over there on the River Rouge is the Tonquish Trail. You can go in there and walk take a 3-mile hike. And in there is where he was shot and killed." Well, it wasn't him shot and killed there. It was his son shot and killed there. But the shaman's hut was in your backyard. He didn't live over there where the pioneers were living. They were farmers. They were, confiscated or paid for the land, however they came about it. And they've been farming there for 100 years. And also one of the cauldrons for the Three Fires Confederacy is buried somewhere there. They're just not able to go dig it up because there's so much buried there and so much built on it and so many cement roads. And it wasn't even a consideration back in those days,
Wow.
So at any rate, that brings us to the ones that are close at hand up here. I have Elena the Trods. She is a statue that I would consider her a doll. But she is a statue that I got once I realized that she's one of my guides as well. And so a lot of the others are scattered around the house because you can't stick them all in one room because they need room to spread out. And because I like looking at my things. I'm not a hoarder. I play with my toys. They rotate with the seasons.
Oh yeah, you do elaborate decorations.
It takes me a while, but I don't take it down the next day because it stays for a couple of months. Like what I've done for Halloween will stay up through Thanksgiving. Pilgrims and Native Americans will get a spot, but it will stay up through Thanksgiving because what are the witches? They're the pilgrims that got hung and burned and sewed a red letter A on their chest. And let's put you in this chair, and oh, by the way, we're tying rocks to your feet, and oh, by the way, if you don't drown, you're a witch. And oh, by the way, if you do, oops, sorry, we killed you. It's just getting rid of women. Yeah,
it was. It was basically a control mechanism.
Yeah.
Control all the women by killing a few here and there.
Exactly. Well, and it's, they were all eating crazy mushrooms. They didn't have any idea that psilocybin is a little toxic and it can grow just about anywhere, So you got to be careful. If you take it in too great a quantity, you see more than you counted on. It's not like the men weren't eating it and getting the visions also, They weren't into microdosing. It went into the pot because they were looking for food.
Yeah.
And they stopped listening to the Native Americans. So.
Yeah, they messed up in a big way by doing that.
Yeah. So who are your closest female guides?
I would say Kali Ma right now. And Hecate.
Oh. I have one of her angels here too.
Oh, okay.
She's up on the shelf with Elena the Trods.
Are they easy to get? Could you bring them down so we can see them?
Oh, yes, I can.
Okay.
I have to move the camera again.
Okay.
Oops. Oh, what was that? A nickel. Nickel on the shelf. That was for salt licks. So this is Elena the Trods. We're all familiar with the antlered goddess, but not everybody knows who she is.
Yeah.
Right. And she is also representative of Diana, which is not, which is also Venus and all of the other goddesses, not just Roman, but Greek, that weren't necessarily antlered, right?
Yeah.
But the first time I saw her, I was about 5 years old in the woods, and I thought I saw a woman with antlers. It wasn't, we were just taking a hike through the woods, right? And it wasn't, there wasn't really even a deer there because nobody else saw it. Except, so she's been with me for a very long time also. And You know, I talk to all of them every day, but especially her.
Yeah.
And I have, you know, a deck of tarot dedicated to each and every channeler that I don't use for anybody else but myself and them. Now, I may ask a question pertaining to other people, but it is for my personal use only.
Yeah.
Don't mix it up with other energies.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually found in pairs. This is one of them. This is the angel for her. And actually, you find them in a lot of Bali temples dedicated to women. Okay. Lakshmi as well. She's one of mine. But Callie with the blue face. Absolutely. And then, of course, we all know her. She's backing us all the way. Of course.
She's one of our newer female deities.
Yeah, exactly. She's about to let a few people know how crazy they are.
Yep.
So what do you do when you channel Callie?
I usually just go into a light trance and talk to her.
Okay.
That's how I do most of my work, is through a trance.
Okay. Do you journal it afterwards, and do you do a candle and all of that?
I do a candle, yes. And I do a little bit of journaling, but generally it's just my questions and general worship that I do.
Another one that I don't want to say, I don't work with her a lot. Morgana for sure, but Hecate.
Yeah. Oh, Hecate has become very important to me lately.
Yes. I mean, she gets such a bad rap, but she's our defense mechanism. She's not.
Oh, yes.
The same as Morgana, you know. You forget that there's a black moon Lilith and a white moon Lilith, you know. And both of them know how to take care of themselves.
Yes.
And that brings us back to the bastardization of the word virgin.
Sure does.
Exactly. So let's see who else is important to me.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. That's a silly thing to say. Oh, so I have this walking stick that was handmade by this artist that was a family member of my first husband. And it's supposed to be him.
Wow.
But when I see it, I think, okay, it can be you, Jim Nickloy, but oh my gosh, this is Nostradamus.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So this is the representation for Nostradamus. And I have the Nostradamus deck, and I love using it reading politics because there's quatrain and couplet quotes in there.
Yes.
It's just amazing how it relates to the question and answers, because I use that mostly for political reads.
Okay.
You know?
I never thought of using them for political reads.
Oh, and I don't even bother with the card, you know? I mean, I do. I look at what it is. I know what that meaning is. But the message that's in the couplet or the quatrain is what is really shows light on what it is. And I can't tell you how many times there's a passage in there that is so specific to the orange blob.
Yeah.
When he, oh gosh, if I could just pull up the card, but I'd have to be looking through the whole deck.
Yeah.
So, you know, my son didn't want it. He said, but Ma, after a while, they had to move. And what happened actually was they had black mold growing in the house that they were living in. And it had been going on for a long time. Well, his wife got sick. Really bad. and they had to get rid of everything just
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's there. So
Mhm.
he had it in storage for 5 years, which is supposed to be what, kills it, detoxes it.
Mhm.
And they don't even, he said, I don't know that it was even really compromised because it was in a box to begin with.
Yeah.
But he gave it to me afterwards and said, I know you will absolutely love this because, I bring
Mhm.
home sticks, but I've got walking sticks and staves and things that I use for spell work
Mhm.
out in the garden and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he gave me that. And then looking around, the Santa Morate is what I use to
Mhm.
channel for ancestor work.
Yes.
Also, Elena the Trods, but also Lama Dama.
Uh-huh.
She's a good one for Lama Dama. And God, I could be here all day show and tell with y'all. Across the room from me is
Mhm.
another important deity from the Native American realm.
Mhm.
She doesn't get the notoriety she should have, but she's the first female pipe carrier.
Oh, that is important.
This is Nellie Two Bowls.
Mhm.
And when she was a little girl, she lived in mid 1700s, I think,
Mhm.
end 1700s. I can't remember the date on her life, but she, as a child, had these three spirits be following her all the time. These women,
Mhm.
and one had a bag with something in it, and another one didn't speak at all, and then
Mhm.
another one did all the talking. Well,
Hmm.
the one that had this bag was the singer. And what was in the bag was all these notes.
Mhm.
So she would come home from wherever she'd been out playing or school or whatever, because I shouldn't say school, but let's just say being a Native American school.
Yeah.
She would come home and come running home and jump into the bed and throw it over her head and blanket
Mhm.
her head. And one day her grandfather caught her and he said, what's going on? Why are you doing this? What are you afraid of? And she told him about these three spirits.
Mhm.
Well, my grandfather was already spiritually connected himself, as most Native Americans are.
Mhm.
Can't say for sure that he was a shaman,
Mhm.
but he decided it was time for her to have her night of fear.
Uh-huh.
So he took her up on a mountain, and I did a double big oil painting of this, but there are two pictures. And
Mhm.
I painted Nellie Two Bowls at about age 12, sitting on the top of this mountain.
Mhm.
It was when she was on that mountain that the three spirits came to her and identified her.
Oh, okay.
Identified themselves to
Yeah.
her, also identified her and said what her mission is going to be. And
Mhm.
gave her the bag of notes. Remember the songs, make sure everyone remembers the songs behind you. And then the one who was silent just talked to her through.
Mhm.
And then the one who did all the talking said, this is your business, and went on and told her what she should be doing. So she was designated as the first female pipe carrier.
That's a really important position.
Yeah. Yeah. Sham being Lakota.
Mhm.
You can find a lot of stories about Native Americans in walking in a sacred manner.
Mhm.
And these are mostly stories about women, Native American females.
Oh, okay. That
Okay.
looks interesting.
I love this book. I love this book. And another person who has fallen off of the radar, I can't even find out if she's still with us,
Mhm.
is Jamie Sams.
Hmm.
Her books on Native Americans, if you can still find them, I would go looking for them, like thrift books and places like that, because
Mhm.
I would imagine are still out of print. You can still get both her decks of cards, the Sacred Path and the Medicine wheel, which is the animals. But this book, the original 13 Clan Mothers, awesome stories about all of them.
Wow.
Then Twyla, her last name is Twyla Nitch. She is Seminole and Cherokee. Seminole and Cherokee. So this book she wrote with her grandmother. And this is all about how to create in your medicine wheel, how to talk to the spirits and what you should dedicate, which stone to what, to whom you want to speak to. So here we have beaver. If you're doing that, then this is the best way to go about calling them in. And that's just that's the iceberg in this book.
Yeah.
Another book is Sacred Path Work. This goes with the Sacred Path cards, the deck of cards. The book that comes with it is good. But this goes a little deeper. It shows, it gives you more of an explanation as to why it came to be in the first place.
Yeah.
And what to do to go about working with that on your own. And then we have Earth Medicine. And then we have, this one is awesome. We have this Dancing the Dream.
Oh, nice.
Another great book. And The Language of the Trees.
Oh, wow.
Her grandma.
That one would interest me because I do listen to the trees.
If you can find this book, I can't tell you what I went through to find this book. Because it is just a little pamphlet.
Yeah.
That was, and I can make copies of the pages if you don't find it.
Okay.
And maybe someone has gotten wise and reprinted it. Seneca Indian Earthwalk. Did I say Seminole? Seneca. Language of the Trees, a Seneca Indian Earthwalk by Twyla Hurd Nitch. Her native name is Yehiv Hinodi. Yehiv Hinod. And it gives, a pretty concise version, but it's all simple typewritten, stapled together, and distributed to a few people from the tribe.
Wow.
Okay, so that is how I came about this thing. And the first, I found it in, I found it at either a Libri or Thrift Books, but I found it like in 2009. So her cards were the first cards that I really, I had other decks, but I got her cards. They were the only ones I used for quite some time, for that first year after my divorce. Because I had hidden so much. Because my husband and the way things were and the life I had back in those days. Yeah. And once I hit on those cards and how much they resonated with me, so much came to light. Yeah. That I ended up getting all the books I could find. Now, Jamie Sams, she also did fantastic artwork, which you can find in some of her books, with bones that she would find in the desert, painting them. And I've got some bones, but I bring them home and say, I'm going to paint this one. And then I go, nope, can't do that. Nope, I can't paint. Nope, that's a spine of a deer. I can't paint that. But that's what she would do, right? Bring home bones from the desert and then paint them into spirit animals. Yeah. And you can find pictures of her art. But she disappeared off the radar because she probably had systemic lupus or some such thing like that. And she decided to retire from mediumship, soothsayer business.
Mm-hmm.
This was maybe 2011. She just kind of disappeared, moved to Australia and started working with Australian medicine and shamans in order to get rid of what is wrong with her, what her physical ailments were. And I understand what they were explaining. It sounds to me like systemic lupus. They just didn't identify it. And back in those days, it wasn't easily identified. It more so than it used to be. Back in the 1980s, that's when they started to make headway with that. Yeah. But anyways, you want to get a good handle on things in that Seneca Cherokee sense. This is a good place to start, because she doesn't just limit it to that, you know.
Yeah.
Because of course, as First Nation, they have a thread that runs through all of them. The story remains the same. The Turtle Island, creation stories are so similar. Even to when we think of the Hopi and their thing about the ant people, and their name for the ant people is Anunnaki. The ant people. But you go to Mesopotamia and the name Anunnaki is from there. I know, I saw your face. What? So
I recognize that, even though they seem a little bit different, you know it right away.
Exactly. You can't get away from that one.
So,
and then with her cards, these are the other things that come with the cards.
Oh, so, nice.
Now I got them shortly after they had been published. So I don't know if you can still get them with the nice hardcover books. But that was
the way I hunt down decks, I'll find them.
Yeah, right. Oh, here's another one by her. Oops. The Three Fires Confederacy. I'm sorry. The other councils were here before ours. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Here he talks about other confederacies. The classic Native American creation story is retold by Seneca elder Twyla Nitch and her granddaughter, Jamie Sams. Wow. And this is awesome. And in here, it gives you how to read stones.
Nice.
The natural symbols that you find broken in a stone, right? Cracked in a stone. So how to read them, not as crystals, but as rocks you find on the ground.
Yes.
Right? So, I mean, it's great just to have it for that alone.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Right? Yeah, I have stones in my house that I've collected.
Yeah, you can't part with them, and you can find out why, right?
Yep.
And if you want to read something that's not an easy read, but helps you understand the Celtic folklore of the gods, the Mabinogion.
Oh, wow.
And I can't tell you how many times this shows up in my dreams before I even got this book. So it's not an easy read, and you can find easier versions of the story. And I keep trying, but it's kind of the same as reading Don Quixote. You read it for a while, and then you put it back down.
I'm one of those type of readers that I carry a book around with me for years. I mean,
I don't get rid of books. You know, that it takes a lot. It has to be a novel that, that I don't care to keep a collection of, because you can't touch my Stephen King collection. I got a lot of hardbacks of his. So this is Jamie Sams years ago, and this was her grandmother.
Oh, wow. Look at that face.
I know. You just
person.
Tell me. And I love her headdress.
Yeah.
Please tell me. Share.
I just get the feeling that she was a very strong woman.
Oh, sure. Can you
both physically and spiritually?
Sure. Because Jamie's got to be about my age. maybe a year or two younger, which would make her grandma the same age as my grandma.
Yeah.
Which, mine lived to be 102. So
Mhm.
you ain't getting rid of me quick.
Me neither. My
Right?
family, we live to be so old.
Thank God. Yeah, I'm going to be here when you guys are, they do replace body parts now. That whole thing can only get better.
Yeah.
And you're going to want to keep me around because I'm so old that I'm going to be setting the records, right?
Yep. Well, you got more knowledge in your head than I could ever hope to learn.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, that's quite a compliment. Thank you.
Yes, because every time we sit down and talk, you blow me away. I'm sitting here taking notes and taking notes and taking notes.
Well, I got to go watch your videos on reading playing cards because I can do it, but I have to go to get this book out that my mom had that she used for reading playing cards. And so I can remember the numbers, and then I start thinking about tarot, and then I look at this and I go, well, wait a minute, it can't be exactly the same. I got to go to this book, which is a very cool book. But yeah.
So we're going to have to do a show on just reading playing cards because
I would love, yes.
Because this method that I do, I have never seen anyone else do this same method.
And how did you learn it?
Yep. And I learned it from my ex-mother-in-law.
Oh, so this is going to be old stuff too.
Yes, kind of. They were pretty much Eastern European.
Oh, so there you go. Lama Dama's version.
But before I even decided to start teaching this, I studied other methods, and I can show you a ton of books that I bought on reading playing cards. There are a lot of different methods.
Yeah, well, and then I probably have something that's off the wall, different method, but
yes,
it can be very complicated.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
but in the complicated is how you get the details in your reading.
Exactly, just like tarot, just like doing a Kipper deck. If you do a grand tableau, that changes every time.
Oh yeah.
Which is why the deck I created, that's why there's 28 cards, so you can do a grand tableau. And then when you do that's the cartomancy card where it's a picture of what the tarot card is, and then it's also the number and what the meaning is if it's a playing card. And then there's something else on there too. What is that third thing?
I can't remember now. But I love your deck. That's a really good intuitive read. It's a really good intuitive read.
If that's for sure what it is, when I read for the general public, it's how I get started.
Yeah.
How I warm them up, because I get a lot of people who have never had their cards read before. And because of that, they sit down and go, well, I don't know. I don't even know what, I don't know. Well, you don't want to know nothing. You want to know something about your job. You want to know something about your income, money in the future, your children, your health, your love life. I really don't know. I didn't even think about what to ask you. I thought I'd just sit down and you would tell me. Well, I don't want to be telling you stuff you already know. So I spread that out and tell them to pick me 3 cards. And then I read. I don't let them flip them over till they have all 3 of them. They stay face down till I pick up the first card. And then the second, and then the third, and how they correlate. What the first card means by itself, what it means with the second,
Yeah.
And I save the bottom of the deck until after I've read their tarot.
Yeah.
Because out of those first 3 cards, and you can do this with anybody's deck, and I'm sure many of you already know that, you get the basic energy.
Yes.
And something else that I've started doing, which is in that mediumship practice, on that list of things, is to take the first 3 letters of a person's name, or to take first, middle, and last name. Well, other people make the appointments for me, so I don't know. I always have access to all of those initials. I only know their first names.
Yeah.
So I take their first 3 letters and I write down whatever quick hits I get.
Yeah.
And I try to keep them across so it becomes like a complete thought. So if it's KIM, it's what are those 3 letters? Each give me a word that becomes a complete thought.
Yeah.
And so, and periodically I have to get one that, okay, this right now is by itself. I need another. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then they all seem to fall into place like dominoes.
Yeah.
When you're playing locomotive with dominoes.
Yep. Yep. Well, we have nearly filled up an entire hour.
Yeah, you could keep me talking for a long time. That's not a problem. Did I mention I'm a Gemini? With a Libra rising and a Sagittarius moon and an Aries North node. So what do you want to?
So we could talk till next week?
Yeah. You can record this whole thing. We'll go for a marathon.
Yep. Okay, you got anything else you want to say before we go?
I was being flip when I said to you, don't let me take over.
I
don't know what happened. You know what Tabitha says? Every time you're flip, it's what comes true.
Yep. That's exactly what she says.
Tabitha, you were right again.
Yep. But isn't Tabitha always right?
Yeah. Yeah, she's so wise. So let's do a little grounding before we leave.
Okay.
You want me to lead?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Let's feet flat.
Yep.
Unless you're sitting on the floor. Just be comfortable. And touch your index finger to your thumb. And inhale. Hold. Exhale through your mouth. Lower than the inhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Please place us in a steady stream of divine white light, the white light of divine guidance and grace. Then wrap us in a blue bubble of Michael's protection that shrinks to fit as we step into the healing teal green orb of Raphael that floats and shares and spreads and transfers. The divine white light, the white light of divine guidance and grace, so mote it be.
So mote it be. Oh, wonderful.
Mind ye the law of 3.
Yep. Thank you so much, Diana.
I love you, Angela.
I love you too. We'll do this again very soon.
And chatters, if you're still here, or if you even came today, so glad you're here. But we can't see anybody.
No, we can't see the chat. So we just went ahead with what we had.
And then some.
And we will be back next week with questions for the Oracle Garden.
Yes, we will.
And we'll schedule another talk like this one.
Yes, we
on
will.
Another day.
Exactly.
Too much information and fun.
Right. As soon as the 31st is beyond us.
Yep.
I'm good.
Okay.
I got a couple more events coming up. So.
Okay.
Love you, Toots.
Love you too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, and thanks for coming.